So I usually like to make these kind of videos where I discuss the topic of an update or a patch after I get like really into it, deep dive into it, understand it, feel out all the differences and everything. And obviously make sure to let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. But as for me, and this is probably not gonna be a popular opinion, but you know, I promised you guys I would always speak my mind, so here we go. I think that the negative feedback that went towards this update slash patch, I think there was a little bit of a overreaction there, right? There's definitely some things that I didn't agree with, and some nerfs that to me, and even some buffs, like for example the Devastator buff, really, it's like I didn't really understand why it was needed. And people will tell me, yeah, but it's the normal Devastator, but it doesn't really matter. I feel like in terms of how they shoot, how they hit their shots, pretty much aimbotting, they're more than enough capable, you know what I mean, to take Helldivers out. I didn't really understand that buff necessarily. Now I'm gonna tell you guys the ones that I didn't like first, and then we're gonna talk about some of the ones that I did like, and I'm gonna also tell you what I like about their overall approach pretty much every month. I think the ammo economy hit, which they keep doing that in a way where they're like lowering the overall ammo economy for the weapons. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I don't understand why they keep doing it. Somebody the other day mentioned in chat, I think it was Barkster, was that what if they're doing this because there's weapon attachments and, you know, upgrading weapons coming in the future. So for example, if some weapon, you know, has set amount of ammo, you can then upgrade it, and now you're gonna have more magazines and so on, which was kind of a good point. Obviously, we don't really know if that's gonna happen or not. Like, we're hoping it will. I'm one of those players that really is looking forward to that change. Once again, we don't really know. There are some changes that I didn't understand. The ammo economy, as I mentioned, I'm not a big fan of, but I can live with it. I don't think that the ammo changes that they've made to the weapons where it's unplayable. As long as you understand the map, you move around, you can always find ammo, and obviously you have supplies and so on. So there's many other ways to resupply your ammo economy and kind of work through it, I would say. So I don't find that as a huge issue, apart from the eruptor getting cut in half. Was kind of crazy, especially if you think about it, because it's a slow using weapon. It's pretty clunky. It's not one of those weapons that, you know, feel really good in terms of handling. So I would assume that maybe if they had dropped it, let's say from 6 to 4 or 6 to 5, but like, you know, cutting it in half by 50% was kind of crazy. Now, the biggest nerf that I think, or the change, I'm not going to call that a nerf. Well, a nerf to solo gameplay, let's call it, is that they're trying to make the game harder the less people you have in a group. But in terms of the consumer in general, I don't think it also makes sense. Keep in mind that some people were saying what they actually did, right, was that when you were playing solo, the patrols weren't really spawning as they should have been. When you played solo, they were spawning less pretty much than normal, and then they just upped that amount of patrols. Because like when I played solo after the changes, and we did that on stream, we had a few clean games, we completed the mission, grabbed a few samples, even though I'm full on samples at the moment, and we extracted. I didn't really have an issue, and it didn't feel different. Like, it felt almost the same. So I'm not gonna sit here and tell you that it's undoable or it's like super hard or anything like that. Helldive solo has always been a challenge, but has never been impossible as long as you understand the game, you bring the right builds, and so on. Now, the hottest topic of this patch and update obviously being the Quasar cannon nerf, which was a 5-second nerf. So its cooldown goes from 10 seconds to 15 seconds. This is just going to be my opinion. I use that all the time. I still feel like it's one of the most powerful stratagems in the game, one of the most powerful support weapons in the game. And I really don't think that, you know, a lot of people I've been seeing that are making memes that Quasar is now dead and it's unusable and I'm never gonna touch it again. You can do that. If you don't want to pick it up, don't pick it up. But if I'm being honest, there really isn't that big of a difference between this Quasar and the one that was pre-update. Yes, 5 seconds increase, went from 10 to 15. Is there a difference? Yes, there is, but it's not like a huge significant difference to the point that, oh my god, it's unusable. And I feel like that's one of the biggest points of overreaction currently, a little bit from the community when it comes to that. I use it all the time. I barely notice the difference. And you're still going to be able to get 4 shots per minute. And for example, the EATs, you only get 2 per minute. And also, please keep in mind, you're going to have to call it in. It's going to have to fly down. That's an extra few seconds. So overall, I don't feel like that was that big of a change as well. Yo, Jen! Let's go, baby! Woo! 5 gifted! I feel like the game still feels really good, and the buffs that they did were really nice. I'm a big fan of the buffs, the changes that they made, for example, to the Blitzer, the plasma shotgun. Like, just these 2 weapons alone really have kind of mixed up everything. I've been having a blast. Like, the plasma shotgun right now might be one of the best weapons in the game simply because of how much better it feels. And on top of that, Blitzer as well is an absolutely phenomenal choice, especially if you're playing against the Terminates. It absolutely destroys stuff. So it's really been fun. Overall, the changes that they make monthly, I'd rather have this than a company that makes changes only every 6 months. Because no matter how good or bad an item is, if you have the same stuff exactly for 6 months, you're going to get bored. You're not going to be trying anything else. And then the game becomes slowly boring and boring over time. And making these little changes, and especially having war bonds at the end of every month, the fact that we're getting a battle pass every month is absolutely ridiculous, bro. It's incredible. I'm a big fan of that. They also increased the damage of the scythe. They buffed the railgun, which was a pretty significant buff. Now, I do think that the railgun should be buffed a little bit more because I feel like it should damage the Bile Titans and some other enemy types easier. It shouldn't take 15 and 16 shots to kill a Bile Titan, in my opinion. So I do hope that with time, that will also happen. They also buffed the marksman rifles, the diligence weapons, and those feel much better when it comes to the bot side. I don't like marksmans against Terminates in general. Regardless, that is a buff. Peacemaker also got a buff. The Senator, which is the revolver, is so much fun now. It is so much fun. The animation, everything about it, the reload, great weapon, feels really good against bots, against Terminates. Great pick, great changes. Once again, another buff that made the revolver literally one of the best secondaries in the game. And yes, I understand that not all of them were the greatest buffs, but that said, they are adjusting it, right? And hopefully with time, this becomes better and better. So overall, I do feel like there was buffs that made a lot of more items usable and fun than nerfs that made items unusable. Once again, if we go back to the Quasar cannon example, I use it all the time. I don't think it's horrible now. I don't think it's unusable. I feel like it's absolutely fine. But this happens a lot when people read the patch notes. They literally just take a glance at it, see what's written on paper. They see the word nerf, and then it's done. They're not touching that item again because I feel like they don't want to test items on their own and like feel it out after the changes. And Quasar is literally one of those examples. It's still a great option. Still one of the most powerful support weapons in the game. If you haven't tried it after the changes, you should. Trust me, you're not going to be disappointed. Heavy machine gun crosshairs were much needed change, says Vance. Yeah, that also. That speed loader makes a huge difference for the revolver, says Corrupt. Yeah, it's so good now. It's so much fun. I do think, though, that the revolver damage should be upped a little bit still so that we can at least kill hunters with one hit. You know what I mean? But yeah, make sure to let me know what you guys think. I would love to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. I mean, we literally have the best community of all time. Oh! Oh, he got no scoped.